We're now joined by one of the biggest names in marketing, Keith Weed, the CMO of Unilever. Keith, always a pleasure speaking with you, especially in this setting. You've come to Cannes and you've talked a lot about what keeps you up at night. Apart from the heat, what does keep you up?
Well, I think there's a lot going on in the world right now, and particularly in marketing and in the advertising world. So the first one that keeps me up at night from a marketing perspective is the whole digital ecosphere, and it's a pretty murky market. And I've talked a lot about the 3 V's of viewability, verification, and value. We're making good progress, but we've still got a long way to go. So that's the first one. The second one is around, we've got a fast changing and evolving society and culture. We don't see the reflection of diversity in our ads that I'd like to see, not just Unilever, but I mean across the advertising world. And then the third one is about reimagining creativity. So we have more media than ever before, but breaking through that media, breaking through the clutter and getting noticed is getting harder. And then getting people to spend time with your brands. I mean, people are in and out, as you know yourself, on the mobile. We might be viewing more media, but we're very transient in the way we view it. So that challenge about how we redo creativity in this digital world. And those are the 3 things that I'm here working on in Cannes.
All right, let me pick up on one of the points. Let's talk about creativity, because there's always the risk as you try and cut through the clutter that you become a little bit too creative in a way and take on too much risk. Now, you've done a lot in terms of focus on sustainability and social purpose, and that's worked very well for you, but then other brands try and do that, and then they come up with a Pepsi ad that generates huge backlash. What's the risk of being too creative?
Well, I think there's always risks about being creative, but let me tell you, it's more risky not to be creative. So if you create wallpaper that nobody sees, your ad dollars go nowhere. So I think being creative is what we will have to strive for, and of course there will be occasions where one brand or another trip over. But I think it's creativity along with substance. So, I agree completely on the point around sustainability and brands with purpose, or brands that matter, brands with meaning, whatever you want to call them, has been really important for Unilever. And we call them our sustainable living brands. And those brands are growing 50% faster than the rest of our range. They're 60% of our growth. And I think we're really beginning to prove now that actually having brands that deliver against a social agenda, against an environmental agenda, really does create good business.
How do you find a message that actually resonates with the end consumer, a message that actually works? Because a lot of people, a lot of brands are trying to do exactly that. Again, you've been quite successful in doing that. Do you think there's an element of luck there, or is it sheer professionalism? What do you think it is?
Well, I think what you need to do is you need to have something which is really true and real and resonant to the brand. And you can't bolt it on it. And I think a lot of companies have a marketing team in one corner selling more stuff, and then a corporate social responsibility department trying to save the world. And in Unilever, we brought those 2 together. So I am the Chief Marketing Officer, but I also run sustainability. So the social, environmental sustainability is run by myself and my team. And so from the very beginning, right in our brand positionings, we integrate the social message and the environmental message. So it's part of the core of the brand. So if you took a Dove and you see the stuff we've done around real beauty and building self-esteem, that'd be a good example. Or Ben & Jerry's and the ethically sourced ingredients, of which we were going to be eating right now, but your team told us that we weren't allowed to.
Maybe later.
Maybe later. And I found out what your favorite flavor is as well. Or even going to our washing powder brand, Omo or Persil, where we talk about child development, and dirt is good. It's good to go out and get dirty and learn about the world, and don't worry, mum or dad, we can get your clothes clean. So it's trying to find something that really works with the brand and it isn't bolt on. I think when it's bolt on, it sort of bounces off.
Yeah. Let's talk about the big move that you unveiled in April of this year, and I guess this was in close connection to the failed Kraft Heinz bid. Essentially, you're cutting the number of agencies that you're working with. It's not a small cut. You're cutting half of the 3,000 agencies that you're working with. You're making 30% fewer ads. You want to save 1 billion euros in that entire process. What's been the reaction from agencies?
Well, first of all, let me just give a little why we're doing it, because actually this was something we were working on already.
So this was not in relation to the failed Kraft Heinz bid?
So we were working on it already. Of course, we've turned up the volume and accelerated things accordingly as part of the strategic review. But what we were working on already is historically, back in 2005, we'd created a marketing department where we had in effect, two groups of people: brand developers, and they were with the categories, working globally, building the brands, the assets, the innovation, the pack design. And then we had local marketers we call brand builders, who were doing things that were local trends, local consumers, etc. And then what happened with the digital world is if you're going to do real-time, in the culture, in the language marketing, it was increasingly our local marketers who were doing that. And we were just building more and more assets, more and more creative assets. And I created this wear-out tool where we actually started appraising were we wearing our ads out? And I found we were wearing out 1% of our ads.
That's
and then
not much.
What's even worse is we found that we weren't wearing in 60% of our ads. So although we've done a lot of work on improving the quality of our advertising, and each year since I've been doing this role, our advertising's got better and better and better, we were putting ads on air and then taking them off before they had their true effect. And in fact, to the tune of 30%, we were producing 30% too many assets. So we've got a one-off step change of we're just going to produce less ads. Now, the great ads we're producing are going to have more airtime. So it's not a negative thing for our brands. It does mean, though, that we are cutting the budget around advertising production and advertising fees.
And the total marketing spend, does that stay?
So the total marketing spend we're keeping the same. So we're holding our what we call brand and marketing investment. That stays the same. But within it, there's a dynamic changing. We're reducing the fees and production budget by 30%. Now, also you're right about the advertising agencies. Another unintentional consequence of having these two teams of marketers, where they were briefing their own agencies, and again, understandable. Now you need a mobile agency, a social agency, a search agency. But we were using too many. So at the same time as we're reducing the amount of ads we're producing, what I want to do is push more of our spend with fewer agencies. So the agencies that stay with us will benefit from that. Of course, the agencies that go will go.
Will you also do much more of that in-house because you think, hey, we've got the capabilities, we've got the right people to do that. In the end, it's probably going to be cheaper anyways.
So we're also building the Unilever studios, yes, and we have many of them around the world already, and that is sort of an in-house agency approach. At this stage, it's for the more simple things like banner ads and things like that, and on the digital media side. So we are doing some of that as well with the Unilever studios. Yes.
Do you think you're a trendsetter when it comes to reducing your reliance on many of the ad agencies? That was a big move. You're one of the biggest companies when it comes to marketing spend in the world. Have you seen others follow through with that because you've done it first?
Well, just to be clear, we are very committed to the advertising world and agencies, and the advertising agencies we work with are a huge part of our competitiveness. So, the WPPs, the IPGs, the Omnicoms, the Publicists of this world, we're great believers and supporters in. So what we're doing is actually we're reducing the agencies that we don't believe give us the strategic clout that we want.
You just want to be more efficient.
We want to be more efficient, and we want to give more of our spend to our strategic partners.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room this year. That was the YouTube scandal. Earlier this week, YouTube announcing a number of steps to address this issue and try not to place ads next to extremist content. Do you think those steps go far enough?
Well, to be clear, we did not leave YouTube. I know a lot of people left YouTube, and we carried on advertising. We've been partners with Google for many years, and I'm a great believer in moments like that you want to stand beside your partners and work the problem through. Having said that, we didn't have a problem. We were using brand safety measures which were there on Google, and we were using them well, and of course every so often occasional ad can be in an area you don't want, but that's also true for buying a billboard that ends up next door to a shop you don't like, or even in a newspaper.
So are you saying it's the responsibility of the firm, of the company, of the brand to actually police it? No, it should be the responsibility of YouTube, right?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there were brand safety measures that were available on YouTube. Now I think what happened, this is a fast-changing market. I do think some companies didn't actually realize what they were doing. Programmatic buying, a lot of people say, oh, it's the fault of programmatic. Well, hold on. We all design our own programmatic buying approaches and strategies. And if you are buying media, which is incredibly cheap, the chances are the cheap media is going to be on sites that are cheap, and you not necessarily want to be there. So I think you've got to be really close to it. I think you have to have an independent media department like we have in Unilever, run by professionals. And in that way, I think you can improve the quality of what you buy. And so I think the responsibility lies on both sides. Of course, on the side of the media company or the publisher or whatever, they have to provide good quality and not just safety, suitability as well for your brands. but then the media companies and the advertisers equally have to be aware of what they're doing and take responsibility as well. Now, the steps they've taken, I think, have made it even better. And I was keen. Well, one of the things is monetizing sort of everything, and now monetizing after 10,000 views. That makes sense. So I think that some of the steps are the sorts of things that we were talking to Google about that we think would make it better. And I think they've listened, they've engaged, and they've responded.
Is there also a sense that maybe the likes of Google and YouTube and Facebook, when it comes to some of the viewability concerns that have come to the forefront, can simply get away with murder because they're the big ones? They have this duopoly. Yes, they need to, of course, address some of the issues, but we can't live without them, can we?
Well, we can't live without them, but also, we've got to also make this market work for the longer term. And I've been working a lot over these recent years with all the players, so not just the Facebooks and the Googles, but with the Snapchats and the Twitters, etc. And moving towards, as I say, 100% viewability, third-party verification. We can't have these media companies marking their own homework. We've really got to make sure that there is accountability. And then ultimately we want to be able to track and transact. So what the KPIs, the metrics that we track on, we want to be able to transact. And with one measurement system across the industry. We're not there yet.
Sure.
And so the approach I'm saying is, look, we've got one budget, there is one consumer or viewer, we need one measurement system, and then actually the quality players will benefit from this because the money will follow the quality of measurement. I'm encouraging them all to lean in on this, and they are. We've moved a long way, but we've got further to go.
Finally, Unstereotype. This has gained a lot of traction. You've signed the Unstereotype Alliance. Tell me about that.
Well, this is actually was the middle thing about keeping me awake at night as far as diversity. What I find extraordinary is our culture, our society has evolved hugely, but when you look at advertising, it actually reflects yesteryear rather than today. And I know some of the stereotypes are shorthands, but they're lazy shorthands. You want to be able to see a more progressive approach in advertising. And what we did is we did some research across all ads, not just ours. And we found that things like only 3% of the time were women seen as leaders in ads. 2% of the time intelligent, obviously intelligent. 1% of the time with a sense of humour. Now this doesn't reflect any of the women I know.
Definitely not.
And so I think what we need to make sure we do is have advertising which is more progressive, that reflects the realities of life. And surprise, surprise, the more progressive ads are 25% more effective. So this is not a moral case. This is
it's also a business case.
A business case, yeah. So we launched last year Unstereotype with our marketers and with the agencies we work with, and have made good progress. So we've got 24% more progressive ads over this last year. But we started working with UN Women. I said, actually, not only do we want to take this globally, but we want to take this across the industry because I think advertising, of course, does affect society and our culture, and I think it would have a much more positive effect if you could, see the world as it is rather than the world as it was. Yeah. So we've got together a cross-section of people. We're going to be meeting the day after tomorrow, and I think it's an interesting mix. So we have, yes, the big agencies, so, Martin Soul from WPP and Michael Roth from IPG. But then still on the other side, we've got Google and Facebook and Twitter, and then also advertisers, Procter & Gamble, ourselves, J&J. So a real good mix of people. We've got 20 companies coming together, and we're going to decide, how can we make a bigger impact on stereotypes in our industry.
Still watching? Perfect. Click here to watch another great video from CNBC International. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.